Welcome to Real Politik at the Cinema. When you got movies like Tom Cruise in them, you can't lose. We are here
Amen.
today, myself, Yair, and our special guest and close friend, Jude Wanga at Jude in London.
Yay, hi.
Welcome
Why?
back to the
Why did
show,
I just...
Jude.
Thanks for having me. I have no idea why I said hello like that. Like, it's late. I'm
Everyone,
sorry.
everyone has kind of eccentric greetings for us on Real Politics. Stefan, our Welsh friend, always likes to do an "ooh, hello."
You got to put your brand on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I really don't want
Put
my
that
brand to
personal
be
stamp.
Hyacinth Bouquet. That's the thing. Well, actually, maybe I do. Okay, we can leave that in. That's fine.
Yes, so today we have convened to discuss one of the funniest movies that I have ever seen. I idly stuck this one on because it was on Amazon Prime, and within minutes I was fucking howling more than I have at any movie in recent memory, and that includes
Could
all
have been Judd
actual
Apatow,
comedies.
right?
Oh, especially Judd, the king of comedy. Is there a new Judd Apatow?
I haven't seen a new one since like 2015, maybe. I don't know.
I saw the one he did with Amy Schumer. Less fucking said about the better. But no, it's not a Judd film. It's by a director of much greater repute. Judd Apatow co-wrote Walk Hard for Dewey Cox Story. Let's not even mention King
Okay, that is a
Judd
masterpiece. That's
Yeah.
actually a masterpiece.
Let's not even mention him in the same sentence as the hated sex criminal Bryan Singer. The international fugitive from justice, who's
got a
flown,
reputation.
yeah, he's flown out to live in the one place where, probably has more unconvicted criminals hiding from some kind of international justice than anywhere else. Which country am I talking about? Wales. No, Israel.
Oh my god, for real?
Wales.
I know that's a haven for pedos, but my gosh.
Just because Roald Dahl once lived in Wales doesn't mean we can just now forevermore associate it with nonsense, okay?
It's not. It's just once I start making a joke, that I make the joke again and then do variations on it, and it becomes a sort of rich tapestry that I can't stop adding to, embroidering further images on the tapestry of my hilarious jokes about Wales and Welsh people. Sorry, Geraint, if you're listening, but let's continue. We haven't said the name of the film we're discussing today. So I was watching this shit on Amazon Prime, and I was fucking pissing myself. Like, you really couldn't lose with this movie. It had movies like Tom Cruise in them. I may not have too many kind of individual moments of kind of hysterical comedy that I can bring up. I'll certainly have some. But there's just a kind of vibe running throughout this movie, which is it being funny is just sort of built into the very bones of the film. And this film, of course, is Bryan Singer, who we did mention, 2008 film Valkyrie, starring, again, already mentioned, Mr. Tom Cruise.
The thing about this movie is the first time I watched it, I did think it was just atrocious. And then I watched it again, as you do with these things, because I was like, let me just give it another try. And then I just thought, this is so bad. The more I watch it, the more I'm going to start actually liking this movie. But it's one of those films where if you watch it enough, or if you watch it drunk enough, it goes from a serious film into an actual comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, why is the cast... It's actually pretty well casted. Like, it does have, like, high caliber actors in it. It's got Terrence Stamp. It's got Bernard Hill. It's got Tom Hollander. These aren't, like, shit actors. These are, like, actual good character actors. But what makes no sense, and I feel like Tom Cruise was the deciding factor in this, is that they're all supposed to be playing German Nazis, and yet nobody, not one of them, has a German accent. In fact, they all have very different accents.
They all got different accents, but, I even went through the Wikipedia pages of the ones who I wasn't as familiar with as the big names, and they are almost all British. They've basically been
Yeah.
like, okay, so we need something that's kind of ambiently European, but we can't have sympathetic characters who are senior figures in the German military in World War II and have German accents. That is a bridge too far. So we need to cast Brits, and maybe they'll do a slight Germanic lilt to their voice, but for the most part, for good Nazis, they have British accents. The bad Nazis, like Hitler himself and others, the creepy SS agent or whatever, they have German accents. And the best Nazi, Tom Cruise, well, he gets to be Tom Cruise. He's American.
That is a
I
very
did love that
good
it
theory.
started with like a sentence in German when he's writing his journal, and then it just transitioned into American and stayed that way.
Yeah, just before into American, exactly. Yeah, the language's true name. But yeah, it went into English just before he said he would have said Juden. You got Jews in English. I don't know. I'm not reading anything into that. I just noticed that.
But the thing is, it's really interesting because most World War II films do follow that kind of theory where it's if you can't get Germans to play Germans, you will just have an English or a British cast and all the Nazis will just have straight standard English accents. I actually have a theory that if Tom Cruise could do an English accent, they would have had him do an English accent. But after the catastrophe that was Tom Cruise's 1994 debut in Far and Away doing an Irish accent, I don't think Tom Cruise is interested in doing accents in films ever again. Like,
I think you're onto
seen that.
something. There's definitely a trope in Hollywood cinema that the Brits are evil. They can play all the bad guys.
Yeah,
but also
exactly.
that Tom Cruise can only do one accent and it's the one that he has. And we
Yeah,
shouldn't
I
ask
can't
him
think
to
of
do
a
any more.
single accent. Well, no, Tom Cruise, sorry to use an impolitic expression, but he sort of Jews it up in Tropic Thunder and does a very nasally New York voice of it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does do Jew face, doesn't he?
Yeah, and everybody talks about Robert Downey Jr., in that film. He's taking the heat off Cruise for the real blackface. That's the real racism, as I say in my article in this week's Jewish Chronicle.
Almost as ancient as anti-Italianism.
Oh yeah, that's the word. Well, we even see a bit of anti-Italian racism in this film because one of the senior Nazi commanders who isn't even involved in the plot. He's just a Nazi. He's just like a big, fat, bloviating senior Nazi officer. But he hates Mussolini for some reason. He's such a Nazi that he's even racist against Italians, including the literal inventor of fascism.
Imagine being anti-Il Duce when he's the only reason why your stupid little party fucking exists. The absolute audacity. Maybe we
Show
should tell
some
people
respect.
what Valkyrie is about just in case they don't know. I feel like they should know, but just in case they don't, should you, as the host, give a rundown on the plot of Valkyrie?
Well, yeah, and I'm going to hand over to Yair in a sec to explain some of the finer points of the historical details. But I'll just say beforehand, this film, it's based on real events to an extent, and maybe not every aspect of the film's historicity may be studiously accurate.
The broad strokes are pretty good.
Yeah, but it does not set out to rewrite history in the manner of the following year's Inglourious Bastards. What it presupposes is, what if the attempted coup against Adolf Hitler of the 20th of July 1944 still failed, and Hitler still survived, and everything was basically exactly the same, but at least an American was at the helm.
Yeah.
So,
and
still lost.
This text
So it's like
epilogue
Vietnam.
even basically says everyone dies, and
it's just
didn't
like
really
now
matter.
you lost. You may have lost, but it was a loss in a decent American way that you can respect.
Go down fighting.
Of course, I was born on the 20th of July 1994, 50 years to the day that Adolf Hitler was not killed. So, what's the crack with this? I sort of outsourced some of the historical detail to you on this one.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a pretty broad question, I guess, but I'll just start saying, I remember watching the trailers for this. I think I was 16 or so, maybe 17, and even then, as a big, massive liberal, my good Jewish sensibilities were like, what the fuck? This is, they're literally Nazis. There's the good guys against bad Nazis. What? And the plot, they try to make this very libbed up story of, there's good guys and there's bad guys, and the good guys fight against the bad guys, and there's not really any nuance. It's just good versus bad, and that's obviously not really the case. I mean, most of the cast are generals and colonels in the Nazi military, even if they were wringing their hands a little, like Stauffenberg literally invaded the Sudetenland, participated in that.
We've all been that just make one mistake. What was it Francis Coppola said earlier about writing for the Daily Mail? It's a terrible mistake, and I'll never do it again.
Exactly, yeah. One of those shoot and cry type things. And,
yeah.
I mean, it does sound like, from my research, that Stauffenberg had some genuine concerns, because he was very Catholic, and he was of that idea of, like, yeah, all the other religions are wrong, but they can go on living and being wrong, kind of thing. And that didn't stop him from being a dog for Hitler for quite some time. And then all the other military guys, it looks even worse. Like, they were just trying to pick a winning side. They could see the writing on the wall and wanted to get out.
Yeah, this is what I was saying about how, like, the comedy is kind of structurally priced into the film, in that you are, at the end of the day, trying to make a bunch of senior Nazi officers look heroic. There's no way around it. Like, every one of these people, whether they have some doubts about the Holocaust or not, will have done appalling and violent shit in the name of the Reich.
100%. 100%. Even the civilians involved with this plot, you look into their backgrounds and, like, they're conservatives, monarchists. I saw a funny phrasing on one of their wiki pages. Karl Friedrich Gordler, he opposed some anti-Jewish policies while he held office.
He was a real moderate.
Great guys. All around.
I'm moderate when it comes to anti-Jewish policies. I think
as far as I know... Some of them are very reasonable people. No, as far as I know, pretty much all of the assassination attempts, or definitely most of those 15 attempts on Hitler's life, were from people who were like, yeah, we like all of your general ideology, but you're making fucking stupid decisions in this war.
Was it basically like Israel, where it was like somebody who's basically Hitler themselves gets murdered by someone who's like, please go further?
The parallels are so unreal. I mean, I hope, kind of, in a way, because we know what happened in Nazi Germany in the end, right? And both Nazi Germany and Israel just bit off way more than they could chew.
And Hitler died on my birthday.
Oh, you're a Hitler baby as well.
And then the film ended there, an hour in.
I didn't know you were a Hitler baby as well. My best friend was also born on Hitler's birthday. And I always get her a birthday cake that says, like, happy birthday, Tilly, Hitler baby.
No, okay, I'm not born on Hitler's birthday. Let's nip that rumor.
Are you saying you don't want me to get you cupcakes that say happy birthday, Jack Hitler baby?
Yes, please don't do that. And I'd also like to clarify, I was not born in the year 1945. This is not a reincarnation situation where the soul passed from one body into another. I was born on the day that Hitler was not killed by Tom Cruise.
In the Reichstag, you were born in the Reichstag. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, Tomorrow Belongs to Me. That was that song. That was about me. Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh, I did recently rewatch Cabaret, and oh my gosh, give me shivers. That is a great film.
It's really good. The thing about coming back to Valkyrie, though, the thing that bothered me about the film is that it kind of just tells you, if you don't know anything about Klaus von Stauffenberg or the 20th of July plot or any of that stuff, you would think he genuinely disagreed with Hitler, but he didn't. He was actually quite okay with a lot of it. He just hated it when they started smashing up businesses and stuff on the Night of the Long Knives. The Night of the Long Knives was basically when he started becoming disillusioned with Hitler, but he was actually very okay with Nazism. He just thought maybe you can just calm down on the anti-Semitism a little bit and we can keep the rest of it. Like, he was very in on the whole invading other nations and, like, all these people are beneath us, but he just thought, slow down, you're doing a little bit too much.
Well, I read that he wasn't
literally
particularly motivated in his opposition to Hitler by the Holocaust at all. I don't even know if it does get a mention in his diaries.
No, as far as I remember,
I did
he
read
was like
some
a
things
pure
that indicated
Wehrmacht
that.
guy.
Yeah.
Okay, I think maybe. Well, I'm just going. This is Wikipedia knowledge. But
Like, obviously, he wasn't the world's
was
greatest opponent of anti-Semitism, but...
No, but I
That's
think
me.
it was like his Catholicism just meant that he wasn't down for like the excesses of Nazism.
the
So
straight-up
he,
murder and stuff was...
Yeah, like if Hitler had just stopped at making Jews second-class citizens, he would have been fine with that.
Exactly.
Like,
It's like the
100%.
liberal Zionist position of like, let's continue the apartheid, but we should probably stop the Gaza genocide.
If you think
the
about
purple
it,
circle dipshits.
Klaus von Stauffenberg was a centrist Nazi who just had legitimate concerns.
Like Mishima.
Like, just had legitimate concerns about where the Nazi Party was going. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's just like Mishima. He was a radical centrist who wanted to restore Imperial Japan to its former
Yeah,
glories.
exactly that.
A self-described radical
exactly that.
centrist.
Never Trump
he
Republicans
was a-
also come to mind.
Yes, he was a strict military man. Like, he was really for the Wehrmacht. And
Also
for
like
him, he just
Mishima.
thought, if we just concentrate on our military, we can fuck up everything. We don't really need to be gassing Jews. That's pretty much his entire stance. And yet
Yeah.
that doesn't actually translate in the film because it makes it sound like he has, like, some strong moral objection to Nazis. And it's like, no, that was not the case. This man was fucking terrible.
Which I will just say, my understanding is that the majority of historians do also actually agree with that Germany really couldn't win the war because they were too distracted by, ethnic cleansing and stuff. They were putting too many resources into that and couldn't do all-out war.
It's
that
like
makes a lot of
when
sense.
centrists get obsessed with left bashing, and it's like, don't you think that's your most important thing to be doing right now? But okay.
Well, it's like when you get really into standing up to gender ideology, and then the next thing you know, you haven't got a career, your wife and kids have left you, you're just posting about people's genitals online all day, the black mold starts growing. Similar.
Until you
Start
said the black
eating raw
mold, that
meat.
literally... Until you said the black
Yes.
mold, I really thought you were talking about Graham Linehan.
I was.
It
I
was
just
an
added that on as
amalgam,
a
sort of.
Look, let's be real. He's got the black mold. He's got
It's
all
in their
sorts of
brains.
molds growing. Without the JKR billions, there's going to be a vast variety of fungus and fauna growing around the Linehan bachelor pad.
Cursed place.
Yeah, oh god, Ilford South, move on over. I'm trying to find this little quote about how von Stauffenberg, wasn't, that arsed about the Holocaust.
He wasn't, because, he participated in the literal invasion of Poland, but he was also in Ukraine 41 to 42. So I think his whole anti-killing the Jews thing came from the fact that what they call, the Eastern Holocaust, the murder of Jews in Eastern Europe by the Einsatzgruppe, was so hard, even the soldiers were finding it hard to do because it was
loads of people got
Holocaust of bullets.
PTSD.
Yeah, because it was they call it the Holocaust by bullets because
Which
them
is
just
why
shooting
they did the
people.
camps, because it was supposed to be easier on the people doing it.
Exactly. It made it easier to turn it into a mundane activity where you don't actually have to shoot and just see body upon body upon body. You kind of contain it. But he was in, I think oh God, I'm trying to remember, it was Lviv or Vinnytsia. I think it probably was.
Oh yeah,
maybe
there
down
was
in
killing
Vinnytsia.
fields out there.
Yeah. And he basically was just disgusted by it. And he was like, we can't keep doing this. But that was it. So this man went through Ukraine in 1941, went through Babin Yar. That was all fine. Got to Vinnytsia and just thought, no, it's too much now. I'm going to hate Hitler. And I'm going to spend the next 3 years thinking about how to kill him. Okay? All right.
I found this little bit now. It's just at the end of the historical accuracy bit on Wikipedia, and I'll stop just quoting Wikipedia after that. But it says, on the other hand, Stauffenberg is shown as being driven by the persecution and murdering of the Jews. However, in reality, the Holocaust was the primary motive for only a few conspirators. So to be fair, that doesn't say that he wasn't one of the conspirators for whom it was a motivating factor. But in terms of the raw numbers of conspirators, I got this from Bryan Singer. I watched a Tom Cruise and Bryan Singer in conversation event on YouTube earlier from when the film came out.
Meeting of the minds.
And just going with Mr. Singer's numbers here, I don't know if he posts online as an account called, Stats for Predators or something, but he says to stat a predator. Bryan Singer says that out of an army of 9 million German soldiers, 2 to 5,000 were involved in the German resistance. And 2 to 5, that's 3,000, but
big
may
margin
or may
of
not
error.
be. Yeah, exactly, but may or may not be involved in the resistance. And he was like, but we don't know who would have just gone along with it if they won. So it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. That's like lots of the good German, as Clooney would say in his later film.
I just looked up on Wikipedia, and I think there's even more on here that we can safely do away with the idea that von Stauffenberg had any moral compass whatsoever, because it talks about how after D-Day, he and like a lot of the military officers were like convinced that the war was lost, and he wrote out demands which he felt the Allies had to comply with in order for Germany to agree to an immediate peace. And the demands included, and I quote, Germany retaining its 1914 eastern borders, including the Polish territories of Poznan and Wielkopolska, and other demands included keeping such territorial gains as Austria and the Sudetenland within the Reich, giving autonomy to Alsace-Lorraine, and even expansion of the current wartime borders of Germany in the south by annexing Tyrol as far as Bozen and Meran.
Well, sounds like a great deal for everyone. Everyone's a winner there. I like how he's just like, don't look in those parts of Poland. Nothing to see there. Let's leave those to us. Yeah.
It gets better. It gets better. Those were just the territorial demands. Non-territorial demands included such points as refusal of any occupation of Germany by the Allies, as well as refusal to hand over war criminals by demanding the right of nations to deal with its own criminals. These proposals were directed to only the Western Allies. Stauffenberg wanted Germany to retreat only from the Western, Southern, and Northern positions, whilst demanding the right to continue militarily occupation of German territorial gains in the East. So basically he said, we'll leave you guys alone if you let us continue murdering the Slavs.
Yeah, Operation Unthinkable, let's go.
Well, I
he
love
was like,
the
you can have the Mediterranean, but Potato Europe is mine.
Yeah. Well, he was willing to give away Africa, as is established earlier in the film, because
that's cool.
We don't have to run through every bit of the plot in order, but let's talk a little bit about how von Stauffenberg is introduced. So at the start of the film, he's out in Tunisia. He's like trying to tell the General, we'll never win. We need to pull out at once because we'll need all these troops to defend Berlin in a year. He's like got fucking amazing powers of foresight, or I don't know, maybe maybe it was just clear they were losing at that point to a reasonable military mind. But at first, like the General he looks at him kind of like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? And then he sort of lowers his tone of voice and he's like, okay, so tell me what to do. You're the top military guy. You're Mr. Action Man, Mr. Military Man. Please brief me on the Nazis' military strategy. But we'll see. The Nazis win the Second World War is again the object of this conversation. But they're discussing about military strategy. And Tom Cruise, to be fair, they clarify he just really, really supports the troops. He's just the most patriotic, pro-military guy. Again, they're like putting it in a kind of framing that Americans can understand here. Yeah. He just says, "I just want to see my boys home safe," which is like, one of those like films where Marky Mark does war crimes in Libya, something like that. That's what he'd say. But they
all get murked.
So basically the General agrees, okay, I'll do what you say, we'll pull out of Africa immediately, but what do you know? Those pesky allies are coming over when they're there. But for a start, there's just like a load of planes coming. They can all see them clear, and they just fucking stand there. All these fucking idiot crowds. They're just like, "What's going on?
Are those ours or?"
Yeah. Yeah. So they see a massive load of planes incoming, like right at them, and they're like, "Fuck, what do we do?" And then a couple of other planes come round the corner, and it's like ambush. Even though you already saw like that massive other planes.
You saw the massive plane, even though you'd already seen the massive fucking plane, and it's like ambush. And then he just sits in the car. He's like, get in the car. The car has no roof. Yeah. He's like, get in the car to the other guy, and they're just sitting there. And I'm like, why are you in the car when you're being bombed from above? Surely you want to get under the car or away from the car. That shit's gonna blow up. And lo and behold, I believe it did.
Yeah. So it's just everyone fucking blown to smithereens, especially the General, who like is simpatico with Tom Cruise. He's lost his most powerful ally now. He's fucked. So the army are not gonna do what Tom Cruise said they should now. That's not happening anymore.
World War II
But
could have
not
just ended that day.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those sliding doors moments, as I believe they call it. But not just that, but Tom Cruise is also horribly maimed. One of his arms is blown off. 3 of the fingers
And
on
he
his other
loses
hand.
an eye.
And he loses an eye. Yeah,
loses an eye,
he's half blinded as well. And so sometimes he wears an eye patch, and sometimes he has a glass eye later in the film. Apparently they tried to stick to the historical record, and that's why just like some scenes it's one and some scenes it's the other. That's what they said anyway.
Got to get that part completely accurate. You know, that's really important.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah, so after that, it's fair to say, I mean, we have the obligatory scene when anyone gets a limb blown off in a movie where they have to work out how to put on clothes again. Once he's struggled with... it's a pretty instantaneous thing for von Stauffenberg, you know, action man, Alpha 20, Dark 30... fucking army hero. He just like, you know, kind of gets his arm in, and then that's that. No need to dwell on it, but it's there. It's there for all the person who's just had a limb blown off trying to learn how to put on clothes again, heads, who are the core demographic in film industry. And then he sort of doubles down on his plotting after that, doesn't he? He's like, right, that's it. We need to really... Although apparently they claimed, I don't think you can particularly see this in the film, but Bryan Singer and the writers of the film, Christopher McQuarrie, and, I don't know, the less famous guy who I feel like probably did most of the work, they made sure to kind of try and show that he's not just butthurt that he lost his arm and his eye, that he's doing this for moral reasons. It's not the only reason why he doubles down on his plotting after that. I'll leave it up to you guys to determine the success of that. Oh, and also, apparently, the real von Stauffenberg refused to use morphine because he was scared of getting addicted during his recovery from getting blown up. And Bryan Singer thought that people wouldn't believe that. They'd just think that was Tom Cruise trying to be a badass, which actually is like kind of a canny decision on the part of Singer, I think.
Yeah. It would have been very generic action movie kind of trope, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in this film...
Not that he was afraid of using those.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the sort of creative team by this film, this reunites Christopher McQuarrie, the co-writer, with the only 2 people he ever works with, Bryan Singer and Tom Cruise. It's the most Christopher McQuarrie film in that regard, possibly, because I just want to get his filmography up. Okay, so first off, 1993, he wrote a film called Public Access. Director, Bryan Singer. 1995, he wrote a film called The Usual Suspects. Also directed by Bryan Singer. Totally unproblematic cast in that as well. Like, you know, why did
Great movie, unfortunately.
There was a lot of outrage in Germany about the casting of Cruise due to his links with Scientology, which is considered a dangerous cult in Germany, but not in the rest of the world where we like it.
I feel like if your objection to a movie about Nazis is that someone in it might be a Scientologist, like you might have missed a point here.
Spacey was still in vogue in 2008. Singer could have made that call, but he did not. And to be fair, this is a very Cruise film. I think this is Tom Cruise is the auteur of this movie at the end of the day. Bryan Singer's a fucking hack, really. Like, he's got a couple of good films, but you don't watch a film and think, that's a Singer joint. Christopher McQuarrie kind of is more of an auteur, but through his collaborations with Tom Cruise, he has developed a shared cinematic language with his tentpole star. Anyway, keep running down McQuarrie's filmography to illustrate this point. 2000, he directed a film that he wrote called The Way of the Gun. Tom Cruise is in
that
it.
The one with Ryan Phillippe?
Yes, and Benicio del Toro.
And James Caan. Yeah, and James Caan. It's cool. Interesting. It's actually got like a semi-good cast in it, because I think I remember James Caan is in it, Juliette Lewis is in it.
I'm going to watch this, I reckon.
I don't know. I would give it like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
it's not one of his best. It's no Jack Reacher.
It's not got great reviews. That's what I just want to go through these in chronological order. So yeah, then Valkyrie, of course, Singer and Cruise. Then The Tourist, fuck all to do with Singer or Cruise. Then Jack Reacher. So Jack Reacher, of course, is a Tom Cruise starring vehicle. Macquarie wrote and directed Jack Reacher. That was his first film he directed since The Way of the Gun, because Cruise wanted him after Valkyrie. Clearly this film was important for their collaboration. And then he co-wrote Jack the Giant Slayer, which is apparently some shit Bryan Singer directed. Then he co-wrote Edge of Tomorrow, which is a fucking great Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
Then Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Jack Reacher Never
Which is
Go
actually
Back,
really good.
The Mummy, a Tom Cruise vehicle that kind of bombed, Mission Impossible Fallout, Top Gun Maverick, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and untitled 8th Mission Impossible film, as well as uncredited writing work on Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol and
They really
the
need to
2000
start
X-Men
calling them
film by
Mission
Bryan Singer.
Possible.
Yeah, it seems like the missions always kind of get accomplished at the end of the day. Yeah, so sorry, little detour, but we're watching something grow in this film. The simpatico Cruise Macquarie collaborative partnership.
The Mummy might have flopped, but it was intended to kickstart the Dark Monsters universe, cinematic universe. So there's supposed to be like The Mummy and like Van Helsing and all of that. And they really tried to kind of Marvel MCU it, and it just didn't work. But I just think that Tom Cruise can't do those kind of movies. He's the last man standing of like an actual blockbuster actor, and that's what Macquarie kind of delivers for him in scripts. Like if you look at everything even before Jack Reacher, but specifically post Jack Reacher, it's almost exclusively action. It's just excuses for Tom Cruise to do weird fucking stunts.
Do you think he's got a death wish?
No, I think he is... It's actually quite interesting because someone was talking about how Tom Cruise was actually destined to be a wrestler.
Grind,
Molding.
we need you.
Thank you. Because he got injured in high school. He was on the wrestling team, and I think he was bound to go and do wrestling at college and stuff, and probably would have ended up in the WWE. But he got an injury, and then somebody advised him to try out for like the school play, and that was it. And that's how Tom Cruise became an actor. And had he not been injured, he probably would have just gone on to become like a professional wrestler.
When did he
That's
first
insane.
link up with the Scientology guys? Wasn't it before he became famous? He's always
It was
been...
quite early on in his career. No, it wasn't before he became famous, but it was very early on in his career.
It was early on, yeah.
When he first started making moves. They got him over the
I think
line,
it was,
if you know what I mean.
I think it was before A Few Good Men, but after Days of Thunder.
Okay, I've heard as well that they took a more active interest in his career after he was basically out of action for 2 to 3 years, filming Eyes Wide Shut in the late 90s. And so
you mean
in the
the movie that caused his divorce?
Yeah, I mean, and then in the 2000s, you see this move away from stuff like that in Magnolia into, you know, more kind of crowd-pleasing action fare. And I think it took him a while to get the formula right. But he has in the 2010s with like the first Jack Reacher, Edge of Tomorrow, a lot of the Mission Impossible films. I think that's high quality stuff. I wish there was more of that being made in Hollywood than, you know, the fucking Marvel shite.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
Tom Cruise has like 3 eras of work. So if you take like his very first movies, like The Outsiders, Color of Money, Rain Man, which is a fucking fantastic movie, Days of Thunder, what's the other one that he did? Risky Business. He's trying all different stuff, right? He's trying all different things. What's the other one? Born on the 4th of July, where he plays Ron Kovac. Ron Kovac?
that's my shit.
Which is also great movie. He's trying really different things. And then in the 90s, he does A Few Good Men, and there's the other one that's the John Grisham one, because A Few Good Men is not John Grisham. Is it Pelican Brief?
Sorkin write A Few Good Men?
He did. Now, listen, I could do a whole episode on A Few Good Men, right? Because it's like the one good Sorkin movie. Like, he really nailed that shit. Oh my god. This is the second... What? Okay, can we do an episode on A Few Good Men? Please.
Yeah, because I've never seen it. I'd like an excuse to watch Jack Nicholson
It's like,
chew some fucking
I think it's
scenery.
the acting debut for Cuba Gooding Jr. It has Kevin Bacon. It has Keith Sutherland. It has Jack Nicholson. It has fucking
Heavyweight.
everyone.
Well, we love Kiefer
it's-
on this show. We went deep on fucking Designated Survivor a while back.
And the script is pure Sorkin, but it's just on the tip of the balance before Sorkin gets really cringe. And yeah, we should definitely do a whole episode on it. But anyway, in the 90s, he's kind of like experimenting with everything.
Were you thinking of The
So
Firm,
he does
by the
like...
way?
Pardon, who do I prefer?
Were you thinking of The Firm, the Grisham
I was
film?
thinking of The Firm, not The Pelican Brief, which is also, I think, a Grisham novel, but not starring Tom Cruise.
All right.
So he does The Firm, he does A Few Good Men, and then he like starts experimenting. So he does Far and Away, and then he does Jerry Maguire, and then he does the first Mission Impossible. And actually, Mission Impossible is probably one of the few action movies he does. By the time he does the first Mission Impossible, I think he's only done 2 or 3 at that point.
But also, it had cachet because it was directed by a great auteur, Brian De Palma.
Yeah. I think that the earlier movies were better, like the first 3. I think Mission Impossible 3 is probably the best of the entire franchise, personally.
Was that John
but
Woo
all of
did that one?
I think so. It's the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman, which was just incredible. It's so good.
That might have been the J.J. Abrams one. I'm not actually sure.
It was J.J. Abrams. It was J.J.
Yeah.
Abrams. It was the one that came out in 2000. I think it actually came out maybe 2 years before Valkyrie. Yeah, about 2 years before Valkyrie, I think it came out.
Interesting. Can you see him developing the style from that into Valkyrie? Do you think they're of a piece in cruiseological terms?
I think by that time, so we go through the 90s where he's just experimenting. So he lands into this franchise, but he goes back to trying these experimental movies like Eyes Wide Shut, like Vanilla Sky, like what's the Michael Mann one that he does with Jamie Foxx?
Collateral. That's
Collateral,
fucking awesome,
which is a great
film.
movie. Yeah, and it's like the first time you see Tom Cruise not playing the good guy. He's like a straight villain in that.
And he's got grey hair in it. He doesn't have grey hair IRL right now, that's for fucking sure. But look, I'm sure it's real. Bob Dylan is 83 and he has a lush, jet black head of hair. Admittedly, he didn't like 2 months ago, but, I'm sure it's perfectly natural.
So after those movies, he then realizes that he's got effectively like this franchise action thing on lock because Hollywood at this point, they've pivoted into the MCU. Because if you think about the time MI3 comes out, we've already had, I think, the original Hulk movie with Ed Norton as the Incredible Hulk before they replaced, with Eric Bana as the Incredible Hulk before they replaced him with Ed Norton. And we've had, I think, either 2 Iron Man movies or maybe just the one, and we're about to have Captain America. So everything is just like full MCU. And so they stopped making the traditional action movies in Hollywood, really. And when they do, the plots are poor, the scripts are diabolically bad, and the actors that they choose to do it aren't convincing. Whereas at this time, Tom Cruise has built up enough skills from doing his own stunts and shit on MI3 to be able to be a very convincing action man. And he's got the pull in Hollywood at this point to get people who can write him decent scripts like Macquarie. So what you see from like 2009 onwards is that the franchises are what kind of pay his bills. You can't really get original IPs making as much money like that anymore.
Yeah, cinema is dead.
Yeah.
Just like Klaus von Stauffenberg.
Yeah, sorry, I could. Yes, he
But not
fucking
Hitler.
is. Yeah,
Well,
ha.
I guess technically.
Yeah, Hitler is dead as well. That we can take solace in that, I suppose.
Eventually.
Well, some of your messages are very in depth here. So let's just talk about like the other plotters who are all basically to a man portrayed as absolute pussies. I don't know how to dress it up, but like basically Terence Stamp as Beck, the famous singer of I'm a loser, etc. He's the only one with any bottle. Just fucking domes himself in front of everyone at the end when because he takes the honourable way out again, like Mishima, as I said earlier.
Although apparently in reality he kind of sucked at doing that and had to get dragged out of the room and shot in the head by someone else.
He missed, or he just shot himself.
He shot himself and he grazed himself.
Yeah,
and then he shot himself and hit, but didn't die and writhed in agony for like 10 minutes. And then they killed him.
They were all just looking at him like, should we do something?
Much less dignified.
Portrayed by the great Terence Stamp, who, I mean, I sent Yair a clip of one of his line readings. I was just like, what is he doing? Like, this is some royal ham from fucking Terrence Stamp.
Amazingly, that film made $200 million worldwide.
Valkyrie.
Yeah.
This was
that
a smash hit.
yeah.
How much did it cost to make?
The budget was like 90 million, so they recouped the budget like twice over.
Definitely before the modern day, that would have been a pretty good return, yeah.
Yeah, like
nice.
it came out Christmas 2008, which I think is a very interesting date to choose to release a film about fucking Nazis.
Should have come out in July, right?
That's the obvious date, or on his birthday.
On my birthday.
Or on the anniversary of his death. Like one of them, maybe not on his
on
birthday,
Hitler's, release it on Hitler's birthday, just to pile
no,
it
let's
indignantly, even in death.
Maybe on the anniversary of his death, or like on the anniversary of the actual plot, that makes sense. But not on Christmas Day, 2008. That's weird.
You don't want to go watch a feel-good movie about Nazis for Christmas.
No, but I think it came out the same day as Cloverfield. Wasn't Cloverfield Christmas 2008, or was that maybe the year before? The J.J.
Around then.
It's just a weird date. But yeah, it made 200 million worldwide. But I think the thing that I find really stupid about it, and maybe this lends to the reality because it obviously is based on a true story, is the stupidity of the actual plot. And so Stauffenberg has worked himself up into like this thing where I have to kill Hitler, that he's no longer willing to just wait for everything to be right. He's now starting to cut corners, and it's literally the cutting corners that gets them where he is. And like once he's seen that bomb go, even when they're telling him the man's still alive, he's like, nah, I'm sure he's not.
Let's be honest, he should have done a suicide bombing. That was the only way. But
Right.
clearly von Stauffenberg thought that
Exactly.
he was too key to the coup efforts to actually stay and see the job through.
All these plotters
like,
and no one was brave enough, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'll lay my life on the line. Walks out of the fucking room. Immediately, some guy moves the bomb.
Fucking shoot him, stab him.
He's the biggest pussy of the lot. Forget Bill Nye. We can get to him in a minute. But yeah, he should have gone out, inshallah.
You know what it is? It's hubris, right? It's arrogance, because at some point, he joins the resistance after like he's been blown up and maimed and stuff. He then joins the resistance, and then they
butthurt. He is just upset that he got hurt. They blew his arm and eye out, and he's just angry at Hitler about that. He's a selfish, pathetic little fool. Yeah,
so he joins the resistance, and then they all quickly are like, "Oh, this is like Alexander Hamilton. Like this guy is really, really clever and good, and he's great at organization, and he can become our leader now." And so because they all revere him, he gets high on his own supply, right? So rather than delegating, he decides that he has to be the one to carry out this plan. It cannot be anyone else. It has to be me. Whereas if he had just delegated and given it to the role from Sound of Music guy who's his lackey, who has to drive him around to go in and stay in the fucking meeting to make sure that shit is done. And if we don't hear back from you from a specific time, that means that you're all dead. Then maybe we would have been in better, like he would have probably survived. Like, I don't think any of those high-ranking Nazis are ever going to see a day in Nuremberg, to be honest. But he didn't do that. And then after he manages to get on the plane and get back, rather than just like, even when they're coming in and telling him the man's not dead, and he's like, "No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it." And, still doesn't believe it. And there's so many points as it's building where like someone with 2 brain cells would be like, shit is fucked for me at this point. When he keeps asking his fucking receptionist to keep contacting his wife, and she's clearly not getting through because they've cut the phone lines. At some point, someone who was supposedly smart would say, "Oh, why did they cut my phone lines off?" It's probably because they know what I fucking did. And either he's not dead or they're coming for me and I don't have the upper hand anymore. But no, he just keeps doubling down and doubling down and doubling down.
She's got a thankless role, the girl on the phones. I think she has one line, which is just like, "I'm sorry, they've cut the phones." And then, because he's the greatest guy in the world, he's like, "Go home." And it's one of those things where like a movie hero, like an action hero, they're not polite. They just say "go home," but it's supposed to be really cool because they're nice or whatever. And it's like, It's like it's okay, you can go home. That's what a decent person would say, not this piece of shit, fucking military fascist von Stauffenberg bastard piece of shit.
Stauffenberg's arrogance, I mean, it just reeks of like that classic fascist triumph of the wills. Like, it doesn't matter what the material reality is. If I just believe hard enough, we'll win somehow magically.
Yeah.
And also, all the other plotters were absolutely correct about, like, they should have tried to get Himmler as well, head of the
He's
SS.
He's the fucking knight in the Holy Grail who he gets all his limbs cut off, and he's just like, "I'll kill you! I'll fucking kill you!" Literally loses his limbs. It's quite an apt comparison.
It is.
He's an apt pupil of that knight, to reference another Bryan Singer film to do with Nazis and the Holocaust, which we've discussed on the show in the past, in fact.
Yeah.
The other structurally strange thing about the film, I mentioned that, the film has this kind of built-in comedy of the fact that you can't get around the fact that you're taking people in the Nazi military high command and trying to portray them sympathetically. It's just gonna come off as pompous and dishonest. But, like, at the same time, the other structurally strange thing about the film is that halfway through, they don't kill Hitler. And then there's another hour to go, which is just a kind of increasingly sweaty and unhinged Tom Cruise sort of having a manic episode.
Even if you don't somehow know the rough history, it's, very, like, the suspense just kind of dies about 2/3 through the movie, because you're like, okay, Hitler's alive still. They fucked up.
It's like, when are they going to execute Tom Cruise? It's like that's what you're thinking. It's like, well, when is someone going to get killed here? God damn it. But I lost my point. Someone else go.
So we were going to move on to the feckless Bill Nighy in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who, if I were the other Nazis involved in the plot, I would fucking blame him for all of us being dead, because that man, they tell you the bomb's gone off, and he's just like, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I'm not sure. Should I do this?
Apparently they totally stitched him up, by the way. He was another, like, hard fascist bastard who was deeply involved in the plotting, but they had to make some guy who was this, like, weak, like, beta male who could be Tom Cruise's, like, best mate. You know, an unthreatening best mate. You see him and Tom Cruise together, you know Tom Cruise is good because he's taken this weakling, this bird with a broken wing under his wing, so to speak, even though he's quite literally one of his wings is
too many wings, Jack.
Apparently that it's just too many mixed metaphors here. But also, you know, Gordelia or whatever, the guy who he's portrayed as like a pacifist, he's like, when Tom Cruise says we need to kill Hitler, and they're all like as if this had never occurred to any one of these plotters against Hitler, and he says, I would have thought a man of your social stature would have come up with a little more of an honourable method of doing this. It's something like
just
that.
Just talk to
and
Hitler and say, hey, cut it out with the Holocaust.
Yeah, well, again, apparently
Please.
that guy was, like, just as bloodthirsty and all-in of a plotter as Tom Cruise. But he gets, like, shit canned because he's, like, bloviating. He's like, we can't kill Hitler! You insane! This is to be peaceful transfer of power. This goes against fine Germanic values. Yeah, the sworn oath, blah, blah. And then Terence Stamp is like, can I talk to you privately? He's like, no, if you've got something to say it in front of all the boys. And he's like, okay, there's an arrest warrant out on you. You need to leave Germany at once. And then he slinks off, another fucking foe vanquished by the god Cruise.
What an utterly stupid movie. It's like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but like as a serious drama.
Yo, maybe one of you can explain. At the end, when Tom Cruise is like about to get shot by the firing squad, there's like some young officer guy who walks up and gets shot first instead. Who was that, and why did it matter?
I have no fucking idea.
So that actually happened, like, for real. That wasn't just invented, like, you know, sometimes in movies I'll just put it in for the sake of it. But that actually happened when Stauffenberg was supposed to get shot.
Because you're like, who the fuck is that guy? Is it his
He's just
driver or
his
whatever?
lackey or his driver or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, I
The
think
guy
I
who-
remember hearing something like that, yeah.
Is it the young guy who he walks into Tom Cruise's office and Tom Cruise he's about to sit down and cruise because he's kind of like, he's like the cool supply teacher who doesn't do things the traditional way. He doesn't play by the rules. He's like, sit down or something when he's like standing to attention, and then he just sits him down and he's like, your commanding officer in the army of the Reich, I'm gonna murder Adolf Hitler. And if you don't like it, mate, there's the door. He like points to the portrait of Hitler on the wall. He's like, one day the portrait will be unhung and the man will be hung. Don't know why Tom Cruise is
Von-
British as well.
Von
am I telling that?
Hatten. That's the name of the guy who comes to take the bullets in front of Tom
Okay.
Cruise. Lieutenant Von Hatten. And that actually did happen, like, in real life.
The young guy who he immediately press gangs into joining a coup, which gets him killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, like, the interesting thing, which is never really explained in the movie, is that From decides to do the summary executions, like, there and then, kind of against
Mhm.
what Hitler wanted. So, like,
Yeah.
in real life was that Hitler was so fuming that he wanted all of the co-conspirators to have very slow, very painful deaths. And From thought, if I show that I wasn't really in on the plot and I didn't really know anything about it, and I do all of these and give these guys like firing squad executions, which is kind of like quick and is not like torture, I might be able to escape like the ire of Adolf Hitler. That did not work out for him, clearly.
No,
That didn't
the
work out.
text pops up at the end saying he was executed.
Bitter irony.
But yeah, so I think Hitler was actually so annoyed that they died that like one of the co-conspirators' relatives instead got like tortured like very, very slowly until he died.
Oh, yeah.
As like
Surprising
this
to
whole
hear,
thing,
but
though,
yeah,
like-
Hitler was not a very level-headed, chill dude, you know?
But they have this whole film and the thing, he's like, he can't contact his family, he can't reach them, what's gonna happen to his family? Oh my god, the phones have been disconnected, they must have been killed. And then at the end it's like, no, they were fine. His wife died.
His
in
wife died at like
2006.
90-something in 2006.
Yeah, yeah. That was a kind of bit. By the way, I said earlier that the woman with the phones had a thankless task in that role. His wife possibly more so. I think they
Yes.
cast
She
the
disappears
woman.
halfway through.
It says on the Wikipedia page they cast the woman as her because they were impressed by her performance in Paul Verhoeven's what's it called? Not Green Book, Black Book. Something.
Oh,
Little
yeah,
Black
another
Book.
Holocaust thing.
Yeah, another Holocaust movie. They were impressed by her and thought, quote, that she would do well in a role with little dialogue. It's like, women need not be heard in such a film, you know? Just sit silently at those phones. But speaking of his family, it's a nuts scene when the fucking Blitz is raining down on them. He's at his home with his family and they're getting bombed. And he literally fucking puts the Ride of the Valkyries on his vinyl record player. He's not like, oh, there's a sustained bombing campaign going on targeting this area. My record will probably get scratched. I'll take that off. He's just like, leaves it blaring. You know?
Well, as I recall, he did take the needle off, but then a bomb
Oh, right,
explodes
okay.
nearby and bounces it back on. But
Oh,
no, he
right,
left the
okay.
record right there. He is not a music
Yeah,
aficionado. He doesn't care
No,
about his
fake
collection at all.
fan, fake Wagner fan. No, I don't know. It just, in terms
In
of
order
like...
to understand Nazism, you must understand Wagner, or whatever Hitler said.
yeah, that is it. That is in it, isn't it? Well, I guess he's doing his research for the plot. See, even in that moment, this guy he lives and breathes the military. You know, even in that moment, he's doing his plotting research by listening to Wagner, closely studying the movements of the symphony. I just wanted to mention as well Bill Nighy's character at the end, when they all get round up. He goes home, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's gonna take the honourable way out. He's gonna go out Beck style, like Beck in the film, not like Beck in real life, where it took about 15 attempts. Nope, doesn't kill himself. He just fucking stands at home, like, crying and whimpering until the Nazis come and get him. They seem to whisk him back to the building where he was before, where they've been, you know, doing the coup. and they immediately use him as like a human shield and hostage and bargaining chip to get Tom Cruise to surrender. Because like Tom Cruise is just, he's going ham, he's shooting, he's awkwardly firing lots of shots with his one arm and
Mexican standoff against the whole German army.
Yeah, they're all there, and he's just like, bang, 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 bullets whizzing by him. And then they come out with Bill Nye, and he's like, God damn it, I've got to surrender now. Protect my poor Nayfish friend, who is, then immediately...
If I surrender now, he'll be fine.
And then you see them, like, they're executing Bill Nye, and he's, like, crying again. It's like, Jesus Christ. They really did this guy dirty, as portraying him as, like, emblematic of the forces of pussydom within the Wehrmacht. Is this the Wehrmacht, by the way?
They are the Wehrmacht.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's the whole point of the plot, is to get rid of the mad Hitler fanatics first. So they basically send the replacement army, which is almost exclusively Wehrmacht. They send them to arrest the SA and the SS to kind of isolate.
Real extremists.
Yeah, the real extremists. But I do think that Albright, or Albrecht, however you want to call him, Bill Nighy's character, did get his just reserves for being such a fucking pussy, because he was the first of the co-conspirators to get shot.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Should have done it himself. He should have been even more the first to get shot by going home and taking that opportunity to take himself out before the Nazis got to him. Kenneth Branagh fucking kills himself, which is apparently how the guy actually went, by going out to some woods and putting a grenade up to his throat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you failed to kill Hitler, why would you not just immediately kill yourself? Like, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
I was reading about Tom Wilkinson, who plays From, and it says that they hired him to play, they cast him to play From to make him appear more sympathetic. And I just
everyone's favourite Tom Wilkinson.
Once again, I know you're trying to tell a story about a failed assassination attempt on Hitler, but we don't need to be sympathetic to any of the people trying to do it.
Yeah.
Because, breaking news, they're still fucking Nazis.
And especially Fromm was extremely resistant. Yeah, he was
the plotters arrested
down
him.
with the plot at all.
Yeah, he's a grass. The fucking grass.
The most he did was shut up.
By the way, I love at the end when, like, the fattest guy in the German army hears that Hitler is still alive, and he just runs through he runs through the building, just like, Hitler's alive! Hitler's alive! Just kind of like, until he's gradually escorted out, just still bellowing, Hitler's alive! And it looks like he's going to explode. He's like, it's like, literally like milk speech vibes in terms of, like, beetroot red, screaming, gesticulating.
Went full gammon.
Yes, full gapes.
The other way that you know that this film is like centrists have legitimate concerns about their party is that it has Eddie Izzard in it, and she plays Eric Feigl? I don't know how to say that fucking name. Who cares? It's
Yeah.
And all throughout the film, you kind of keep thinking this character is going to basically dob them all in some way. But you don't really know, if you don't know anything about the plot, you don't really realize that he's literally with them up until they get to Wolf's Lair, and the character calls Tom Cruise to come and take the phone, because it's a planned call to get him out of the room after he's put the bomb down. But I just wondered, why was Eddie Izzard cast in this?
Kind of wasted, bro. Yeah. I think Eddie gets a death at the end. I think a dramatic death, hanged or something. I can't exactly remember. Oh, going back to the deaths, I love, by the way, when, as you mentioned earlier, Tom Cruise is being executed and they shoot that younger guy. It seems like the way they portray it in the film is just to spite him, just to show, we Nazis have such little regard for the military and our brave boys and the troops. And we're just gonna murder this young infantryman right in front of you. And, like, the look of pure rage on Tom Cruise's face. It's like, you can kill me, but how dare you kill this brave young troop at the beginning of his career? And then they do kill him. And that's that. No one to avenge the troop. Sorry. Until the Russians come in a year.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately my problem with the whole film, is that it doesn't just try to tell the story of the assassination attempt and the plot. And I think there's a way that you can tell the von Stauffenberg story and still hold true to the truth that these Nazis were actually really fucking terrible people as well. They were still fundamentally Nazis. Most of them were like quite signed up to like at least 95% of the ideology, rather than this kind of romanticization of the German resistance, quote unquote, or like, you know, these rebellious Nazis who decided that there has to be a better way than Hitler, but magically that better way was not actually a democracy. It was just a dictatorship run by autocracy ran by them instead. And that really bothers me. And I think it was one of the first of those films to actually start doing that. It was the first, well, I feel like the first of a tonal shift in World War II movies where the audience is being invited to have sympathetic feelings towards people you're not supposed to be sympathizing with whatsoever, regardless of the act they're doing.
Would you just give some more recent examples of that, just so I know what you're talking about?
I see it a lot in dramatizations of things like, so I watched a show about, I think it was like a BBC or maybe it was a Disney version with Liev Schreiber. I think it's actually like a retelling of Anne Frank's story. And yet there are times where they're clearly being dobbed in by their fucking neighbors. And yet at the same time, the neighbors are being presented as if, oh, they didn't have a choice. Yeah, you did have a fucking choice.
Right.
You didn't have to be a grass. And I just think it's like a weird creep into a lot of modern storytelling where you're invited to look inside the mind of the killer or look inside the mind of the Nazi. Act Pupil does this a lot. Well, actually, Act Pupil's probably one of the worst culprits for this. And I
was going to say, a glimpse inside the mind of Charles Swan III when you get a peek into the horrifying visage of Charlie Sheen's mental recesses.
The Reader does this as well. So it's Kate that plays the Nazi prison guard who is like trying to move on with her life. And it's like, no, you're a fucking Nazi, don't you?
Yeah, Apt Pupil is some hammy fucking shit. Like, I don't, I didn't watch Apt Pupil and think, like, I think this guy should make, like, Holocaust movies his main thing, but by the way, according to Bryan Singer, Beck, I keep forgetting his first name. I just want to say like Bertold or
General,
Beck,
or just
call him Beck Hansen. Jeff, I believe it was Jeff Beck. General, probably somewhat to the left of the actual Jeff Beck. Like R.I.P. To both of them, in fact. But Bryan Singer in that In Conversation event that I watched, he said that Beck represented in the film a moral and human Germany. A new way of doing government. They kind of say this, like, this is going to be a new style of government quite a bit in the film. And there's this bit which I was talking to Yair earlier about, which I love, where Tom Cruise turns up and he sees Beck there and he's like, Oi, why aren't you wearing your military uniform? Disrespectful. And Beck is just like, I wanted to wear my civilian clothes. I want this to be seen as a government of the people.
Yeah,
a real people's government.
The people's right-wing authoritarian dictatorship.
Ein Movement Populistar. I don't know how you Germanize words.
That was perfect.
But yeah, that's like turned into Spanish at the end, like a cross between Spanish and Polish. I've invented a new language. I'm just looking through for some more of like my prime moments. Well, just in that, a couple of highlights from that In Conversation event. The host says that Cruise often does his best work as, and I quote, crippled or maimed characters. And Tom Cruise is like, yeah, like in Tropic Thunder. And I'm like, wait, sorry, I didn't think your character in that was crippled or maimed, just bald. Unless you're saying that being Jewish is a disability.
Either he's saying bald is a disability or
deeply anti-Semitic or something.
And then Tom Cruise later said, he's like, oh, I was raised to always doubt authority, always question, always question power. And, I just think it's crazy. He's talking about the oath that German soldiers had to pledge to Hitler, which you hear at the start of the film. He's like, I think it's crazy to, like, pledge loyalty to one man. And it's like, well, yeah, I guess David Miscavige and the late L. Ron Hubbard are two men. Xenu not
totally different.
technically a man. Xenu's beyond gender, as I understand it. I've not been granted access to those scrolls yet. I'm not at that level of Scientology.
I think it's so interesting, though, that Singer said he wanted Beck's portrayal to be like the face of like civilized Germany. Meanwhile, the actual real Beck said upon witnessing Nazis take rise to power, he literally wrote, and I quote, "I have wished for years for the political revolution, and now my wishes have come true. It is the first ray of hope since 1918. And
a new dawn has broken, has it not?
Also, going further, I'm just like reading through Wikipedia here. In Beck's conception of power politics, it was crucial to have German military power restored to its pre-1919 levels, and from the latter half of 1933, he advocated a level of military spending beyond even those considered by Hitler. Once Germany was sufficiently armed...
Well, that's the norm in Britain today. Keir Starmer wants much more military spending than Hitler.
He was a liberal,
That's the mainstream of politics, yeah.
Once Germany was sufficiently rearmed, Beck thought that the Reich should wage a series of wars that would establish Germany as Europe's foremost power and place all of Central and Eastern Europe in the German sphere of influence. Tell me how this man is any different to fucking Hitler. Like, literally, that's
nothing to do with Hitler's plan. No resemblance.
And yet somehow Bryan Singer decided that guy should be the face of civilized Germany.
What a fucking hero, eh? And he hasn't made a good album since Modern Guilt either.
Well, you know, Beck is also a Scientologist, so...
He denies it, actually, by the way. He was raised in the church, but he says...
Yeah, he's one of those baptized Scientologists. So it's like him and Elizabeth Moss, and no one really wants to ask them what the fuck, because they've been in it since birth.
When she did The Handmaid's Tale, loads of people were like, coercive methods of control?
This has no bearing on my religious life whatsoever.
Also, just like to run through a couple more highlights. I might just have one more from this. Tom Cruise and Bryan Singer in conversation event I watched. Tom Cruise gets a laugh at the start when he's like, well, I always wanted to kill Hitler. It's a good job that Tom Cruise is, like, not generally a live performer, I'll say, because he kind of misreads the audience. He thrives on their laughter. He hears that laughter and he just says it again, like, yeah, I always wanted to kill Hitler. Yeah, I'd kill Hitler. I'd love to kill Hitler. And you just keep saying it to the point that nobody's laughing. And it's like, how the fuck do you make wanting to kill Hitler sound weird? He's such an uncanny character. Like, at the end of that film, he's talking about how he loves being on set. He's not one of the guys who camps out in his trailer. And he says, I love coming down to the movie. I love just being on the set and geeking out about movies and loving movies. It's like you come to the set and love movies with the people basically working for you. Just you and them together, loving movies. Not sure what that entails in practice, but Tom Cruise, he's geeking out because he's just a normal geek who loves movies. What kind of movies? All kinds of movies. You hear an interview of Tom Cruise, they ask him, what kind of movies do you like? I like all kinds of movies. What kind of music do you like, Tom? All kinds. There's nothing behind those eyes. It's fucking terrifying. I love him, but it's terrifying.
It's so hard to hate him because he really is kind of holding cinema on his back at the moment.
That razzle dazzle. That old Hollywood, you know.
That old Hollywood magic that just doesn't exist anymore. Disney has like bludgeoned it out of fucking cinema, and like Tom Cruise is fighting desperately for the right to make a B movie that does well in the box office but has absolutely no substance behind it. Long live those movies.
Oh, this is the real mainstream cinema of Valkyrie, just like taking, the serious issues for grown-ups and just pissing all over them, just handling them in the most tactless, fucking brain-dead, inept fashion. That was real cinema. That was mainstream entertainment for adults.
Valkyrie is like Con Air. Somehow it ends up being fucking hilarious. Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage, the two heroes of cinema.
They've never done a film together because that's just too much charisma for one motion picture. It's like the world would end if you combined their respective star power.
They should do like a face-off 2, but replacing John Travolta with Tom Cruise.
Yeah. I mean, they both have certain shared interests, don't they? So that would work. I'm talking about gay sex. I mean, I'm talking about their religious belief.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. No, but Tom Cruise has his fingers in a lot of movie pies, though, doesn't he? So he's got quite a few coming up.
A lot of things. Travolta is that?
No,
Tom Cruise. Sorry, connection issues.
Mission Impossible, like Dead Reckoning Part 2 came out this year, also directed by Christopher McQuarrie.
Wasn't that the one film, Dead Reckoning? Wasn't this a surprising failure? Or it wasn't exactly a failure, but it got so drowned out by fucking Barbieheimer, that no one really gave it the time of day.
Dead Reckoning Part 2 was supposed to come out this year. Part 1 came out in 2023, and I think that one had mixed results at the box office. But Part 2 was supposed to come out this year, and has now basically been delayed to next year. So it's due to come out.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, they don't want a repeat of what happened last time then. They're trying to cover every base with the next Mission Impossible, clearly.
Barbieheimer, fucked it up last year for them. And I think they just decided, they say it's because Tom Cruise got injured, but I think it's because they just want to have a clear run. They've looked at the release schedules for films, and they've decided they just want a clear run on it.
Well, look, every actor is legally obliged to do all their own stunts, so you're gonna get injured in the course of acting. It's a highly life-threatening,
dangerous job. That's why they're paid
profession.
so much.
Yeah, exactly, because they're like lion tamers or something. They're risking their lives every day to bring us entertainment.
Thank you for your service, Tom Cruise.
Thank you, Tom Cruise, yeah.
If I think about musical biopics, the Queen one, was it We Will Rock You? That was abysmal.
Yeah. Well, who directed that? It was Bohemian Rhapsody, and that was ostensibly directed by Bryan Singer.
Bryan Singer? Yeah!
Except, he actually didn't do fuck all on it. This guy Dexter Fletcher did most of the actual work on it. And there's a quote which is like, Bryan Singer directed the film in as much he said, yeah, I approved that shot when I was able to drag him out of a gay porn theatre for 5 minutes. Which is like, whoa, he still goes to the cinema to watch porn?
Weirdo.
Boomer stuff there, yeah.
Yeah, well, Bryan Singer has never been accused of having orthodox sexual tastes. Let's say good luck on the new life in Israel, Brian. I hope that goes well for you. I hope you get back to making movies over there as well. Get some more movies. Look, I have had a fucking great time tonight, guys, but I really want to wrap it all up.
We had some good chat. It was really nice talking to you both.
You too.
100%. Couple of little Bryan Singer things to leave you on that I've got somewhere that I've just lost because I was idly scrolling while we were talking about other stuff. Bear with me. I can always cut this shit out.
No, also, it gives me time to talk about how much I really hated Bryan Singer's Superman.
Oh, well.
I've only seen bits of that.
I have never seen that. He was before his time with that, wasn't he? Because he put it out a few years before you could just literally film a pile of shit for 2 hours in a static shot, call it Shit Man, and release it to cinemas and make $15 billion. He did it in 2006, didn't he? So it was 2 years before
I think
Iron
there was
Man.
like Spider-Man, right? But that was the only superhero thing really going on.
X-Men. Bryan Singer
was
had
also
already...
X-Men.
He'd already had superhero success.
He had a whole franchise. He did all of the X-Men movies, but outside of First Class and Apocalypse a little bit. Okay, maybe the first X-Men movie, but X2, X3 were diabolical. And as an X-Men purist, I really hate what he did with the characters and how you'd have characters that you recognize from the comics or from the iconic cartoon of the 90s, but then they'd have a different character's backstory. And it's like, I know that I'm watching this character and this is so clearly Jubilee, but why has Jubilee now got a Wolverine backstory? Or why has Jubilee now got Rogue's backstory? It doesn't make sense. Or why does Rogue have Jubilee's backstory?
That is weird. You'd think these movies are being made for the fans who know what's going on, right?
Right, and if you can't,
No,
personally,
they're
I
made
just
for
don't
money. I
think you
wouldn't
can
think
make,
that.
you can't make an X-Men movie that doesn't have Gambit. It doesn't make any fucking sense. and then he fucked over the Gambit standalone, because after the first 3 X-Men, they were supposed to start doing like standalone movies for all of the characters. So Gambit was supposed to have a standalone movie, and like obviously the Wolverine franchise kicked off there. And Bryan Singer literally fucked all of that up. Like, so I hate him so much. Also, so he ruined.
Well, I hate him as well.
And he ruined Superman, who's like the only good fucking superhero in the DC universe. And it's like, why would you do that?
So, Superman, in fact, influenced Bryan Singer's approach to the character of von Stauffenberg. He said, having directed Superman Returns, Singer compared von Stauffenberg's dual identity as loyal colonel and conspirator to Superman and his civilian identity, Clark Kent.
Oh my god. Yeah, I said to you, that was like the dumbest lip-shit take I've heard all month. Like, well, it's the start of the month now, but you know, wild stuff. That's up there with Putin is Thanos or whatever.
Putin is Zelensky, even. This is like so in so this last Singer-related thing I just thought was really funny because of all the controversy about, especially in Germany, about how the film reminds people that the Reich exists. That's usually controversial in Germany, or existed rather, but mainly about Tom Cruise's links to Scientology. United Artists renewed its marketing campaign to reduce its focus on Cruise and to highlight Singer's credentials.
Unproblematic guy, yep.
They had one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and they were like, nah, let's de-emphasize the Cruise factor, and let's fucking bill this as like a Bryan Singer joint from the mind of Bryan Singer, that authentic Bryan Singer style. Come check it out again.
It is pretty wild. You'd think like with the German anti-Nazi laws they would be like, oh, this is a bit too sympathetic, not, oh, there's Tom Cruise the Scientologist as the star.
No, it was all about the Scientology stuff as far as I could discern. That was pretty much all the controversy to do with this film in Germany. Although in that In Conversation thing I watched, Cruise and Singer did sort of imply that they'd had trouble finding a distributor out there.
Makes sense.
Anyway, I have had great fun today with you two, supporting the troops, getting our
Standing
brave boys
up for
to
the
safety.
good centrist Nazis.
Yeah, for the real Germany, the decent human Germany.
For the people.
Not for the...
For all the good middle-class Nazis.
For the good Nazis with their plummy English accents, and of course, to the best Nazi, the most American Nazi, Mr. Tom Cruise. Do you think that's a good point to end it on, guys?
I do.
Great. Perfect. Can't be liable. We're talking about a movie.
Absolutely
yeah,
not.
Exactly.